Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy, and Connor Gray will not be joining us tonight, but joining us tonight is Andrew Santangelo. We've had a bit of scheduling conflicts and everything. It has been a busy time here at Northwestern, and I just want to let you know it is a joy that we still get to do this show, and I'm happy about it. And even though we're not on every day like I would like to be, some days we're off Monday, sometimes we're off Tuesday, we are still able to get this show done and that everything is able to go swimmingly. But it has been a busy week of sports, as it always is, across the United States and around the world with the Olympics coming to an end. But there's another team that we don't talk about as much, that is only a mile or two away, not even a mile or two, a minute or two away from our studio, the NWTV7CU, and that is, of course, our team, the Northwestern Rangers. The Rangers have continued to play great basketball over the past few weeks as the Rangers continue to try to cement themselves at the top of the GAC. Tonight, I'll be discussing how they've done it, as well as what lies ahead for them. On Thursday night, the Rangers started a 3-game homestand by playing the Wonder Boys of Arkansas Tech. The Rangers defeated the Wonder Boys by a score of 84-75. The Rangers at that point in time, had won 9 of their last 10 games, and this stretch has propelled the Rangers near the top of the GAC standings. Now, the Rangers with this 84-75 win was a giant deal because there's a big race going on that I'll get to in momentarily at the top of the GAC, but I want to talk a little bit about how they've done this. The main goal of this team has been to play on both ends of the floor, both offense and defense. And Malik Parsons has been a guy that has really helped the Rangers in this category. He had 21 points against the Wonder Boys. They were able to make big clutch defensive stops when they needed to hold on and get this win. It was a back-and-forth affair most of the game. The Rangers, though, able to get the big win there. And the source for this story, according to Andrew Santangelo of RideRangersRide.com, Northwestern surges past Wonder Boys. Just a big win there, but they weren't done yet. On Saturday, the Rangers took on Harding University, the Bisons, a team that gave the Rangers trouble earlier in the year out at Searcy. Rangers able to get an 83-80 win the first time. They meet again, and the Rangers break the century mark for only the second time this season, getting a 100-94 win. Now, while that does seem like a good win, 94 points is the most Northwestern has given up all year. And Coach Vinay Patel, the head coach of the Rangers, asked about, the defense and everything. This is a theme that has been going on. We want to be the best defense in the league, says Coach Patel. As a coach, I pride myself on that end of the floor, and our guys have bought into that. Now, Coach Patel obviously not happy giving up 94 points. I don't know a coach that would be happy giving up 94 points. But as we look ahead, it is going to be a big challenge for Northwestern. On Thursday night, they take on the Crimson Storm of Southern Nazarene. The last time Northwestern played Southern Nazarene, the Rangers won 88-63. And the source for that, another story from RideRangersRide.com, courtesy of Andrew Santangelo, which is that the story officially here, as I find it here, balanced scoring leads way to 25-point win over Southern Nazarene. It was just another dominant game, but that's not the only game left important for Northwestern, as the Rangers will also travel down to Durant to take on Southeastern. And the main picture is this. Northwestern is 2 games behind Oklahoma Baptist with only 2 games left in the season. The Rangers will not be able to catch them, but the Rangers can lock up at least the top 3 by beating Southern Nazarene on Thursday night. Now, if they're able to beat them, they have an opportunity to clinch the 2 seed as well if they're able to win at Durant and beat Southeastern. Southeastern will take on Oklahoma Baptist on Thursday. The Savage Storm also play a game tonight. And if everything goes Northwestern's way, I seriously believe they have an opportunity to clinch the 2 seed in the GAC, which would be a long time since the Rangers have done that. 4 years doesn't feel like a long time when you say it like that, but in basketball years, that is a long time. So if you like what you're seeing so far, be sure to give us a follow here on Twitch, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us anywhere on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, anywhere you can find us. That is NWTV7. Once again, that is NWTV7. We've got a great show here for you tonight. We're going to talk about some football a little bit, talk a little basketball, the All-Star Weekend happening in the NBA, as well as what is happening in college basketball. Interesting news going on there with a certain scuffle happening Sunday in Madison that a lot of people put their eyes on. I mean, it was the talk of Sunday afternoon, which was really weird. Also, Aaron Rodgers, some cryptic posts on Instagram. No one knows what was going on there. It led to a big announcement everyone thought was coming today that didn't really happen. But as we get all to that, as I'll change gears here, we'll get to our black screen for a moment just to let you know we're not going away. We're not going anywhere. We're just getting everything shifted around, and we will be back in a moment here with the guys who stare at stats. And we are back now with the guys who stare at stats. Andrew, thank you as always for coming on. It has been a little bit, just a little bit, just our normal weekly break. It doesn't feel like it sometimes, but we sure have a lot to talk about today.
No, without question.
There's been a whole lot going on. I know this might be a little bit of a shorter show trying to get with things going on around Northwestern's campus. We got a big game tonight, not in terms of collegiate teams, but in terms of, well, I guess collegiate teams if you think about it. We've got the student versus staff game going on tonight at Burnsville Fieldhouse. That should be a blast. I know you'll be there working it. It sounds like it'll be a fun time.
Yeah, I've heard, this is the first one I think I'll go to, but I've heard a lot of fun things about it, and I've saw on SGA social media and stuff they're doing like games at halftime or something, and they're giving away prizes. So it's gonna be a fun time. Good little activity here on Northwestern's campus. But yeah, sorry I couldn't make it yesterday. I had a buddy had tickets to the OSU game, so went up to Stillwater for the OSU
Baylor game. I don't blame you on that one. That is something I'm not going to blame you on there. But it has been a giant week, and we'll get to that Oklahoma State-Baylor game in a little bit. That one was a big game, of course, going on, as you mentioned, in college basketball. But before we get to that, there is something I want to talk about just a little bit on the professional side and what was one of the big topics kind of heading into this week, which was the All-Star game. It was All-Star weekend in the NBA, big time as it always is. LeBron James doing what he does best in a 163 to 161, getting the game-winning shot. But Steph Curry, the MVP, having a 50-point night. I mean, a huge night for him. Both Akron kids, if you technically think about it, which is still weird to me, but it's correct. And, I mean, just a huge night there. But that's not the main thing, the All-Star game itself, I want to talk about. There was a lot of controversy going on social media. Why is the dunk contest the way that it is? Why does this happen? Every year it feels like now we hear this is the worst dunk contest since the last year we heard it was the worst, and then the year after that, and the year after that. And we keep going down the line of this is the worst one ever. I mean, eventually I think we're going to get a good one again. I mean, this is what people said. It felt like leading into the Zach LaVine versus Aaron Gordon dunk-offs, but people want to know, why does this keep happening?
Yeah, I think part of the problem is a lot of the players don't buy into it. Obviously, it's fun for whoever is out there, but a major problem is you don't have the big-time players going out. You don't have – I'm not asking for LeBron James to go out every year, but you think 1 year out of what he's been in the league for almost 20 years now, you think one of those 20 years he could have went out and did the dunk contest? No, we haven't seen him. You think one out of the 20, or eventually probably, Kevin Durant, I don't think he's ever done one. And that's part of the problem. And the way I compare it, and I know you, I don't know how invested you get in the All-Star break for baseball and MLB, but imagine a home run derby if, like, none of those guys are participating in the home run derby and you're getting a bunch of, like, got a bunch of infielders who are just, or not infielders, a bunch of guys who are just getting on base, those type players, not hitting home runs, playing in the home run derby. It's going to take away from the event. Luckily in baseball, obviously there's always a couple guys that say no, but there's still a majority of handful of guys. I mean, look at Pete Alonso. I mean, he'll probably say no eventually, but at least he did it for 3 years now. Yeah, the one of the all-time greats back in the day. I mean, with Sosa, that home run derby, McGuire, and everything. And I mean, even recent when Josh Hamilton was always involved in it, Ryan Howard was always involved in it. You always have the superstars. And again, it's not always the number one guy. Like comparing it, it's not always the LeBron James doing the home run derby or whatever. It's always at least a couple top 10 guys doing it. But you don't have that. That's the problem. Like, and unfortunately, I was busy, so I didn't even get to really watch it. So I was just watching the highlights and stuff. But you don't have, when you think about it, LeBron James isn't in it. Kevin Durant isn't in it. I'm just naming superstar. James Harden isn't in it. Anthony Davis isn't in it. Like, none of those guys, Giannis isn't in it. I mean, top 5 players in the NBA, and I could keep going. The top 10 probably isn't even in part of it. And as cool as it is seeing some of these guys who aren't as big of a name participate, if you're going down and you want to spend money on I mean, All-Star event tickets aren't cheap. If you want to spend money, you want to go see the superstars participate. So I think that's the major problem is they got to find a way to have the actual top, just overall league buy into it. I don't think as fans we see the problems and we're continuing to make fun of it and everything, but I don't think they realize the issue yet.
I don't think they do, and I agree with your point about that. The other thing that I just find funny is the format I just think is kind of odd in general, in that you can do, like, the thing that blew my mind is you had people doing the same dunk I've seen them do for, 7, 8 years. There's no originality to it, and they'll still be like, oh, that's a 9. That's a solid 9. It's like, well, it's not, it's not as impressive as the first time you see it done. Like, obviously, no one's going to go dunk over a car again like Blake Griffin did. No one's going to do some of the crazy things Zach LaVine was able to do, or Aaron Gordon. But, at least try to do some originality to it. And there were some at the beginning where they tried to do something like, I can't remember who it was, trying to dunk in Tim's, which was an interesting choice. I was like, okay, it's not, mind-breaking or anything, but it's something at least. I'll give them credit. I've never seen that happen before. And then as you get on, you have the format where, okay, they just need a simple dunk to win. If they can dunk the basketball, they win, because the other guy tried to do something and missed 3 times, which kind of blows my mind that they could do all these crazy things in game and then perform one dunk and they can't get it done.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem too. And there's no feel for it too. And that's the problem is, like, you get to these whatever amount of tries there are, and they're just continuing to go and go and go. There's no rhythm behind it. There's no nothing. And, I mean, even the judges. I mean, I think that's a great way to look at it. If you go back and watch a dunk contest 6 years ago, look how fun, laughing constantly the judges were even having to compare to the way they look now. Like, I feel like that's just almost tell the whole story there in itself, not just the fans, but, like, it seems like they're missing part of the fun as well.
I know.
It's almost like too much of a serious event. And even, obviously, the 3-point contest never changes, but, like, even that, like, they miss opportunities on some of the stuff they could take advantage of. Like imagine a Steph and Seth Curry in the 3-point, like, and they take that headline. Like, I kid you not, I can't remember who it was I was with when they told me, but they told me Karl Anthony Towns won the 3-point contest. I'm like, what? Like, first off, I was in disbelief, one, that he won.
Yeah.
And then 2, I was like, why is he even in it? Like, if you would have told me he was in the 3-point contest, I would have been shocked, let alone win. So, like, it was cool to have that upset. But I'm like, how are they letting, like, I guess it's weird to say now that he won, but, like, before I would have been like, how is he even getting in there? Like, there's so many more guys you could have in there that make it more competitive and interesting and stuff. And honestly, I'm going to take it a step further real quick, and I think a lot of the All-Star breaks are starting to get that way.
I think so. Most people are kind of realizing it's not worth the time putting in the full effort to do something that doesn't mean anything, really. Yeah. It's just kind of a break, so most of them want to treat it like a vacation.
Exactly, and I think that's one thing baseball always had the up with, was when they had it decide home field advantage, and I think we mentioned that before. But, like, I miss that. I thought that was always a fun way. The players were still able to have fun with it because it wasn't like it decided who won the World Series. So they were still able to have fun with the game and the week and the break and stuff. But then though, it would also make it serious enough where, okay, we're going to treat it like a serious game almost in a little bit of a way. So I think they kind of missed out on that. But I don't know what you would do for the NBA. And I just think I guess it's off-season meetings, but yeah, they need to sit down and because honestly, like I used to always be like, okay, I really want to watch this. It's cool, but like
Yeah.
I missed most of this weekend, and like all I did was really watch highlights and go back and read a bunch of stuff. But I wasn't disappointed. Like years past, I've been like, man, I really wish I would have been able to see.
Yeah.
Like now, I just kind of reading everything and like, oh, it's terrible,
Yeah,
it's terrible. I'm
okay,
like,
this happened.
like okay, I don't miss anything.
Yeah. The other thing I do want to say is that, they had to cover it. They had 3 hours of coverage for it. The skills challenge got an hour. The three-point contest got an hour. The dunk contest got an hour. But in between it, they did the weirdest things you could. Like, they brought Steph Curry out to advertise his new show on HBO Max. And, of course, everyone booed him because what a shocker. Cleveland's not too fond of Steph Curry. It's not like he beat the Cavs or anything a lot. And then they did, like, this weird trivia thing where, like, they had 2 wine glasses or something. And it was like, drink this one if you think yes. If no, drink the other one. And I just remember looking up, like why am I Kansas, West Virginia's on. Why am I not watching that? This is ridiculous. I come to watch 3 specific things. Please show those 3. What are we stalling for? It's a basketball court. There's nothing to add.
No, you hit it straight on too with the Kansas West Virginia thing, and I know we touched on it last week with the Olympics a little bit, but that's part of my problem too. Is at this point, it's like, do I want to watch whatever solid college basketball games on or NHL game at that point, or do I want to sit here and watch this? That even though, I mean, I will say I turned on the back end of the third and the whole fourth quarter of the All-Star game. So I did watch all that, and it was. It's fine. I go back and forth. I don't know how you feel about the fourth quarter format and all that stuff. Like, instead of having times, you play to the score and all that. And
see, I do like that. I think that is kind of an interesting twist to it. It's something you don't see a whole lot of. And so I do like that. I think that is a fun format to end the game instead of, they could just, in theory, just run the clock out and just be like, okay, we don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, too. And it's funny. There's no way, and I wouldn't like it. But it would be an interesting twist if they were like, okay, we're going to try this for the regular season for a few games. And, like, imagine if, like, you got to, like, take out the late game fouling and all that, and it was actually just straight up basketball for the entire fourth quarter.
Yeah, just straight up the entire fourth quarter is just a basketball game.
It wasn't like, okay, a minute and a half left, we're down by 8, let's start fouling or something like that. It was.
I mean, you could if you had, like, a bad free throw shooter out there and they were 1 point or like 4 points away, like the Thunder when they had Andre Robertson, where it's, oh no, if they score 4 more, we just got to start hacking him and pray he can't make 4 free throws.
I know how to do that in the game now, Ben Simmons.
Yeah, that is true. There you go. That is a guy to get to. Now, we've talked a little bit about the NBA. Now let's switch gears over to college basketball. And there was a lot that happened in college basketball, both on and technically off the court. If you count the sideline, I guess it's still the court. But looking over at men's college basketball, it was a wild week and an already kind of a wild start here on Monday. Let's go back to Saturday real quick, just kind of recapping some of the big things that happened. Gonzaga, of course, doing what they do best, getting an 81-69 win over Santa Clara. They're going to continue to do that. But the big upset of Saturday, how about Florida taking down Auburn 63-62? Tyree Appleby with 26 points, including 20 in the second half.
You know, they needed that win. Florida's a bubble team right now, and I was surprised Joe Lunardi still has got him on the last 4 out, even after that win. And I was surprised. I thought that win would not put him as a lock, but I thought it'd put him on the inside for now. So I was surprised to see that. And but no, a huge win for them, the Gators down there. And they're always a team you always kind of like seeing do well. So we'll see how they kind of shake up.
Yeah, I mean, Florida's been kind of an interesting team. They started well. Everyone thought they were going to be a top 15 team. They lose a few games. They get down in the bottom, and then no one really knew what to think of this team, and then you get a big win like this. If you can close the season strong, it doesn't matter what happened in the middle. As long as you can close strong, you're good.
It's all about how you finish, right?
Exactly. And then Arizona, speaking of finishing, getting an 84-81 win, just sneaking one out against the Ducks of Oregon. Big win there for Arizona. Kentucky doing the same thing. You ever just feel like going and scoring 40 points in a few minutes and able to just start controlling a game? Kentucky doing just that, getting a 90-81 win over Alabama.
Yeah, Kentucky is another weird team. And same with Alabama. Like, everybody thought Alabama, even myself, thought they'd do better this year. They've been up and down. Kentucky, they're really hitting stride right now. They're a team. I think in a year like this where it's kind of wide open that they're four, but like they're a team that struggled a little bit early on, and now they really found the rhythm, and they're back in that top five. So they're fighting for a number one seed in the March Madness. We'll see if they're able to hold on and get that. Because listen, I'll tell you what, everyone always talks about the SEC for football, but I think especially this year, this is an underrated basketball year for the SEC. That's a conference playoff that is going to be fun to watch and interesting to see how that one shakes out.
It will be for sure. And then moving on here, Kansas going on the road to Morgantown, a place that's never friendly to the Jayhawks, but they're able to get a 71-58 win over West Virginia. Baylor able to get a 72-62 win over TCU. Big win there for Baylor when you've got several starters out and still able to get a win over the Horned Frogs. That's big time.
Again, Baylor is a team. They're well coached.
They are.
Scott Drew. It took him a little bit, obviously, to get things going down there in Baylor, but he's got things fully going, obviously, after a championship season. And this year, they bounced up. They hit huge stride, got up to the number one spot, and then fell a little bit when they lost some of the injuries. But now they've been a few weeks with these injuries. They found their rhythm again, and they're back to being a legitimate title contender and a dangerous team to watch. But I mean, when you got good coaches like that, you're always going to have a chance to win it. And now a lot of respect for Scott Drew.
And then Duke getting an 88-70 win over Florida State. Villanova getting a 74-66 win over Georgetown. Georgetown gave Nova some problems at times, which I think you're starting to see that desperation kick in for the Hoyas. You kind of feel, are they even going to win a conference game? You start to get that pressure that builds up on you, and sometimes it causes you to play better, sometimes it doesn't. It's still this entire weird thing. If you would have told me Patrick Ewing after what happened last year with them, they'd take the absolute worst turn possible, but here they are.
Yeah, Georgetown's a team, I mean, especially back in the regular Big East days, I never liked, obviously, being a Nova fan, but, like, it's one of those rivalries you miss them being at least somewhat decent and, like,
You do.
making those things competitive. Because, like, when you're in that game, it's like, okay, Nova, it's close, but, like, Nova's not going to actually lose this game. Like, it's not, it doesn't have that draw for it. And, like, I really miss the days where Georgetown was actually a legitimate Big East contender. And I don't know, and it's weird to say, but, like, Patrick Ewing's been there, I think, since, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 2017.
Something like that.
So it's like, imagine, like, there's no way you're going to, like, fire a guy like Patrick Ewing.
No, I mean, they gave him an extension last year.
Imagine how much pressure that is. Like, they still, like, he's been there. This is his fifth year. Still hasn't really done anything with him. Your fifth year, you're about to go winless in the Big East. Like, I don't know. It's like, at what point do you question some of that stuff? And it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. But no, it's, again, and here's the thing. They've been in a lot of games. They just don't know how to close games out. Like, there's been a couple times I watched them, and especially, like you said, they were playing Nova close, and then all of a sudden, late quarter or late half, it's all of a sudden back up to, like, 10-point game. And I don't know, just another weird team.
And then speaking of kind of weird teams, Texas Tech and Texas. This environment, I've got to say, for this game, I don't know how much of this game you were able to watch, if you were able to watch any at all getting ready for the Northwestern game here Saturday. But this was a crazy environment. I talked about it a little bit on the show last Tuesday where Texas Tech fans bought tickets in bulk to this game. They were planning on overtaking the arena, and it looked to be about a 60-40 split. Texas was trying to get student tickets in. They were having to come in, immediately get told to leave because Tech fans had already bought those tickets to those seats. It was a crazy time, and it was Fran Fischel said it a bunch on the broadcast, a Big 12 semifinal or final-like atmosphere. It felt like a giant game, and it was a giant game. These are two gritty, physical teams that play really good defense, and Texas Tech able to just yank it away again from Texas, 61-55.
Yeah, and it's going to be, obviously, both being from Texas, it's been somewhat of a rivalry, but like this.
Don't tell Texas fans that. They'll gladly tell you it's not a rivalry.
It is now with the whole.
It has
whether
to be.
they want it to be or not. It is now, and right now Texas Tech had the edge in both games, and I love Tech's team, and this game that they're poised in this. I didn't catch it live, but I went back and looked at some highlights and stuff with how big of a game it was and stuff and everything. So, but no, like their ability to win this game and everything was huge, and to sweep a team like Texas. I'll tell you what, Tech's going to give Baylor a run for their money, especially in the Big 12 playoffs. I think they already played each other twice. I could be wrong.
I'm pretty sure they
But,
did.
yeah, so I don't know how the final standing is going to shake out, but I'll tell you what, they're going to give them a run for the money in the Big 12 playoffs, and especially them. And
yeah, Texas Tech swept Baylor this year.
Yeah, and it's funny, I forgot Kansas was back at the top. I think Baylor was up there at the top, but no, it's Tech's a legitimate contender for that Big 12 title.
I mean, they both are. They're really good teams. Switching over to the Big Ten, Kofi Cockburn and the Illinois Illini. I mean, this is a team that has bounced back and gotten to where they need to be. Number 12 in the country, going into East Lansing. Never a fun place to be at when you're the visitor. But they get a 79-74 win over Michigan State. And this Illinois team is one that I really like going into March. I think this is a fun team. They've got good guards, a good center. They're able to dominate on all aspects of the game. This is an Illinois team that I think can make some noise. I know we said that last year, or at least I thought it last year, and then Loyola Chicago comes along and had other plans. But this year, I really do think Illinois kind of playing a different role, not the heavy favorite, but kind of more, not necessarily a sleeper because you know what they can do, but kind of more of a 3-seed, 2-seed, 4-seed line, somewhere in there to make some noise in a bracket.
Which, yeah, we can get into it a little bit because obviously it's going to change next weekend with the upsets, but they released their first bracket seeding, I guess is the way to put that, this past weekend. And but no, they're a fun team to watch, and I'll always say it. There's a few coaches that I like to watch, and obviously it pains me to say as an OSU guy with the way Brad Underwood treated Oklahoma State, but Underwood's team's always fun to watch. I mean, they were always the upset team in the March Madness at Stephen F. Austin. And then here, obviously, the one year he took OSU back to the March Madness after 4 left. Now, like you said, I was with you. I thought they were going to go on a run last year. But this year, they got a lot of those guys back. And I think this is going to be the one. They're really clicking at the right time. I think they'll go on a nice run. And you know what? We should have a little show March Madness bracket going.
We probably will. I mean,
out.
We might do a selection Sunday or something like that. At the very least, the Monday afterwards will be in here.
Yeah. Well, and I was talking about, I meant like a bracket thing between us.
Oh, yeah, we'll do a whole bracketology segment. We'll probably, I mean, I don't know about you, but I always do the little bracket challenges, and I always have I usually don't make just one. I'm given 25, so I'm going to make 25. Never get close, but, it makes me feel better that I have 25 shots instead of one.
See, my thing on that is I try not to go overboard. I'll do one serious one. I'll do one fun one with Nova winning, one fun one with OSU winning if they're in it.
See, I can't do it. I can't even do a fun one with OU winning because I know it. I've seen it happen almost one time in my life, and then Villanova happened, and it made me sad.
That was a fun game, right? I
prefer the one in December.
Yeah, right. I was actually at that game. That was a fun.
We could have flipped results. I would have been a lot happier.
I'll pass on that trade.
Yeah, okay. I mean, makes sense. But moving on here, number 13 UCLA defeating Washington 76-50. Arkansas once again playing well at home. I mean, they never lose at Bud Walton Arena. It feels like getting a 58-48 upset win over Tennessee. And then Ohio State able to not really do a whole lot at home, getting upset by Iowa 75-62. And Murray State, the Racers, they did it again. They cheat death again, getting a 62-60 win over UT Martin. I mean, this Murray State team has been a lot of fun to watch. Anytime you see a ranked mid-major, usually something is up there. But every few games they have one of these. They had it at Tennessee State a few days ago. They have another one here at UT Martin where they're narrowly surviving, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, you can look at it either way. But Wyoming able to bounce back, get a win, 75-67 over Air Force, and UConn getting a 72-61 win over Xavier, wraps up all the top 25 action from Saturday. But as we move real quick to Sunday, starting with what was, I think, a really fun early morning slot. You had Providence and Butler. We'll start with that one. Providence getting taken to OT by the Bulldogs, and Butler just not able to finish it off. Providence getting a 71-70 win. This is a Friars team that they just find a way to win.
Yeah, they're lucky. They're lucky to win that game. The Butler.
They're a very lucky team. I will say that.
I'll make it quick. It was funny. Quick story. It was I was in Stillwater on Sunday as well for the Bedlam wrestling match.
Yep.
And I stopped to get my hair cut real quick, and I
Mhm.
went to, I think it was called Game Time or something like that, set of TV, and they had the Wichita State game on, but I saw the score at the bottom. Butler's up by 18.
Yes.
I mean, you know how long a haircut's. It's quick.
Yes.
By the time I got done my haircut, it's all of a sudden Providence has a tie game, and they're sending it to overtime. I'm like, I'm sitting in the chair for like 10 minutes, and all of a sudden it's a tie game.
Is the Butler blowing a 19-point lead? Providence called a players-only timeout. The coaches didn't say a word. Players knew what they needed to do. They were down 40-21. Sure enough, come all the way back and win in overtime.
And that's got to be something special for the coaches, too. I mean, because
It
obviously,
does.
like, they got a good coach. Ed Cooley's a good coach. And obviously, at some point, coaches can only do so much. So, like, that's got to be cool for them to realize, okay, we had the leadership in a group to come out and do that. Like,
Yes.
that's special, and you don't get that from every team. And I think that's one of the reasons why they could be built for a little bit of a late March run, just because of that. I mean, the leadership there and everything with them. So that was pretty cool to see.
It was. It really was. But unfortunately, I did not see as much of that game as I would have liked to. I was kind of checking the score because I was infatuated with one of the weirdest games I've probably seen all year. Houston-Wichita State going to double overtime. Could have easily been triple overtime. Houston pulling off a 76-74 win. I mean, this Houston team, you can say, this has been a rocky road for them, especially when you lose some of your better players to injuries. But, I mean, Houston went from the front runner in the American to they're just trying to survive and get that 1 seed now. They're trying to make sure they don't get caught by anyone. I mean, an SMU who beat Memphis, they're lurking around. Tulane of all teams. If you would have told me Ron Hunter was going to go to Tulane and build up a good team for the Green Wave, I would have thought maybe. I mean, there's time, but I didn't think it would happen this soon.
No.
And then other game to talk about, Rutgers' run is over, unfortunately, for the Scarlet Knights. They met Jaden Ivey, and that is not a fun guy you want to go up against Purdue, getting an 84-72 win. Jaden Ivey with 25 points for the Boilermakers. Just a fun Purdue team. I know we've talked about them quite a bit on the show, but we have to get to the main game now, which, of course, Michigan-Wisconsin. This is a game that not a whole lot in terms of game to talk here. Johnny Davis having a big day for the Badgers. Wisconsin gets a 77-63 win, but it's all about what happened after the game. You have the handshake line, Juwan Howard and Greg Gard getting into it a little bit. Juwan Howard throwing I guess technically not a punch, is more open-handed.
Slap?
Yeah, I guess a forceful slap, I guess, is the best way to put it. At one of the Wisconsin assistant coaches, you had all sorts of chaos going on. Juwan Howard's now been suspended for the rest of the season. I mean, there were people calling for him to get fired. There were people saying he shouldn't get more than a game or two and that he was just defending his players. From what I really don't know exactly, but
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, wait.
I would say I kind of know what I want to make of the situation, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, there's a couple. I've talked about this with a couple different people. One being a Wisconsin fan, actually, and but I try to really dive into this and look at it in all different ways. And the conclusion I kept coming up with, I think both sides are at fault a little bit.
Oh yeah, I would agree on that.
Obviously, more on Juwan Howard. He should not have. Never throw a punch or something like that, especially with the situation you're at. I mean, you're coaching 18 to 22-year-olds for the most part, and you're there to also set an example on top of coaching like that, and that's not what you want out of that. And my thing is, I honestly thought they were a little bit lenient for him in terms of suspension. I would not have went to the strength of firing him. I think that would have been too much.
Yeah.
But I would have given him the full year.
Yeah.
Because he got the 5 regular season games, and they'll be able to coach the postseason. I would have went the full season, including the Big Ten playoffs, and then obviously they're a bubble team right now, so we'll see.
Yeah, whether it be the NIT or
how
the
it shakes
NCAA
out.
tournament.
But yeah, all postseason as well. And then, because first off, I think it would have been better for both sides. Let him kind of regroup, realize what he did wrong, and then start fresh next season. Because now, and I know this is getting away from the actual incident, but now when he comes back, it's going to take away from the Big Ten playoffs a little bit, because that's going to be a lot of talk.
That a lot of people were worried about, not to cut you off, but what happens if he comes back and Michigan's first game's Wisconsin?
Right.
What if that happens? What precedent is even being set? You solved nothing. You're just going to get that again.
Exactly. No, you're 100% correct.
Because, I mean, that's what Juwan Howard said. He said, we'll remember this next time. Well, what if next time is only 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now?
No, without question, you're right. I honestly didn't really think that about that part. But, no, because here's my thing. Howard should never landed the punch, slap, whatever you want to call it. But what is Greg doing there in that situation? Pulling. I get it. So the whole thing stemmed from a timeout that was called.
15 seconds left.
15 seconds left, 14-point game. He's claiming, Wisconsin claims they wanted to teach a pressing moment and all that. But here's my thing. One, just I'm an advocate. Okay, yeah, you want to teach in game, but also that's what film's for. Go, kind of talk about it and figure things out that way. If it was going to cause a problem, here's the thing: it ended up causing a problem. You could the fact that he pulls Juwan Howard aside means, okay, he knew Howard wasn't happy about that timeout. So here's my thing: it's the heat of the moment, both sides, heat of the moment. Don't try to pull this is anybody. If you're already angry and someone pulls the guy you're mad at pulls you to the side, it's gonna cause a stir up. Like, let things calm down. We all have phones for a reason. Give him a call after the game. Shoot him a text. Okay, I want to explain myself why I did it. I'm trying not to have any bad blood between us, but I think that was not the right time to take that into account. And so I think both sides are at fault a little bit for that reason. I don't think he should have pulled him to the side like that, especially when you can hear him say, like, don't touch me, and all that. Yeah. And he continues to. They both kind of just kept pointing at each other, hitting each other's chest, like, look who I am, and that kind of stuff. And then my last thing before I let you go, because I've seen a lot of this debate now too, is should we get rid of the handshakes? No, we shouldn't get rid of the handshakes. Like, the funny part about it is, it'd be one thing. I think the argument would be more there'd be more in favor for that argument if it was a fight between players. The funny part is this fight's between the coaches.
Yeah, of all people, it's the coaches.
But, so, yeah, I think I want that argument to go to rest. I think unless if there's, like, a scuffle late in the game and, like, it's clearly best to just be like, okay, go to the locker room. Let's skip this one game because that's what's best. I do not think they should skip it full on all year.
Yeah, unless it's like a full-on, like, altercation happening at the end of the game. Everyone just needs to cool down, and we don't need to reignite it again immediately. But I think the main thing I saw with Juwan Howard in terms of getting fired or the case for it, the only way I could see this, and this would be, I guess the best way to put it is an SEC-level move, because you'll see the SEC teams do this all the time, is this was a year where Michigan fans knew they probably weren't going to be as good, but the national perception that Michigan was going to be extremely talented and good again this year. They were preseason number 6. A lot of Michigan fans I saw saying, that's a big over-ranking. We're not going to be number 6. The only way I could see him getting fired is Michigan had a plan to get someone else in, and then they could use this as a justification. I mean, you've seen people do that before time and time where they don't have a good year, and then they did something controversial, so they just decide to fire him for the sake of it. I think Michigan will be fine next year, personally. I mean, they're in a good place where they are even right now. They're better than where they easily could be. As someone who has grown up sometimes seeing the abyss of college basketball, I know where it can be, especially this year with Oklahoma, seeing the fun ride of going into the abyss and maybe not coming back out this year. It can be a lot worse. It really can. Oh, yeah. So I don't think Michigan should fire him. I think, like you said, suspend him the entire year, because we've seen what has happened at the Big Ten tournament before with Juwan Howard. We saw it happen against Maryland last year with Mark Turgeon. I just don't understand or don't agree with the decision to let him coach again this year. I mean, it just sends, to me, the wrong message. That will give you not really a 100% slap on the wrist for it, but, oh well, don't do it a third time.
Yeah, and honestly, I was surprised. Sorry, I'm blanking on his last name already, but Greg, the Wisconsin coach.
Greg Gard.
Yeah, Greg Gard. I'm surprised he didn't get a game. I mean, he gets fined.
Yeah.
He survives. Again, he had part of it. I mean, I know, he has the right to call a timeout, and that's a whole other argument, whether you should call a timeout on all that. But regardless, again, I'm not in favor of him pulling Howard aside because, again, that's just right there. You already got a guy that's mad, and, I mean, I know if I'm frustrated, I don't want the guy pulling me aside like that when I'm just trying to get back to the locker room after, like, a loss like that. So, again, I thought he deserved a game or two as well, so I was surprised to see that. And then, and listen, we don't know what was said.
That's true.
From the assistant coach. I know I don't. I mean, if you were there and you you heard it.
Yes, I was not live on the ground in Madison.
But no, so I'm sure something was said by him and which escalated the situation. So I don't. I'm pretty sure the assistant got away with nothing, which also surprised me.
Yeah.
I thought, honestly, maybe not to the extent of the money guard got, but I thought the assistant would get some type of small fine as well, just because, I mean, he was involved. I mean, he was involved. Instead of kind of just pushing everybody aside, trying to calm things down, he's yelling at Howard and obviously crossed the line at some point a little bit for Howard to swing at him. But, again, we're never going to know. It's kind of like the Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett thing. We don't know what was said to cross the line.
Exactly.
The next event after, or actions after, obviously is wrong. But until there's proof of what was said, we can't really talk about that side of it. So, obviously, something was said. So, I was surprised he escaped with nothing.
Yeah, but then moving on here, just getting to the last game of the rankings real quick. USC gets a 62-60 win. They get a buzzer beater win over Washington State. Good win for the Trojans. They're able to keep them afloat. You do not need a disastrous loss once we get into the final third of February. And then looking real quick at Monday, Baylor going on the road to Oklahoma State, going into overtime. The Bears able to survive yet again on a shot that would have counted if ESPN would have displayed it correctly in the eyes of many, but fortunately the shot clock had already went off. Baylor was able to survive on that one. UCLA getting a 66-52 win. They get revenge over the Sun Devils. Ohio State and Indiana going to overtime, and the Buckeyes, still ranked, getting a big win over the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's this time of year we get the best basketball, and it's really starting to show. Saw a lot this weekend, saw it last night. A lot of overtime games here the last couple of days. And what does Tuesday bring? Just some more ranked matchups.
Yeah, Tuesday we get Villanova, UConn tonight, top 25 matchup there. Should be a fun one at Hartford. Alabama at Vandy. That could be a weird game. Every Alabama game, you'd never know which Alabama team you're going to get. Kansas State, Kansas, it's Sunflower Showdown. It's in Fog Allen, so probably not going to be too crazy as if it's at a Manhattan, but it can still be a fun game. Weird things have happened when those two get together. Oklahoma trying to win at Texas Tech. Oklahoma had one of their best three-point shooting nights of the year last time they played Tech in Norman. They've got to be able to do it again if they want to get a giant win that would keep Oklahoma somewhat in the tournament conversation. Michigan State going to Iowa. How weird is it to see an unranked Michigan State? It's definitely not what you expect seeing Michigan State and Iowa's the one that's ranked.
No, exactly. And Michigan State's, they've struggled the last couple games. We'll see. Obviously, another well-coached team. We'll see what they're able to do to get out of that. And we'll see what happens if they're able to get back in the rankings here before the end of the season.
Yeah, then two more SEC games here. Number 17, Tennessee going to Missouri, and number 18, Arkansas going to Florida. Arkansas-Florida will be a fun one. Two teams getting hot at the right time, able to get big wins and see what both are able to do.
Yeah, I think if Arkansas is able to survive this game on the road, I believe they got a big game on Saturday. I want to say it's might be Kentucky. I think they play.
Let me see here.
And I think that's obviously going to set up a major
Kentucky at home,
major showdown. Well, obviously Saturday, so there'll still be an 18 versus 4 game. But obviously, if they're able to survive tonight, that'd be a huge game there for Arkansas once again. And they've taken advantage of a lot of opportunities so far.
They definitely have. It has been a fun time for sure. This entire college basketball season's been fun, and now we're in the really fun part, which, this is one of the favorite times of the year.
No, you're saying it's already been fun. We're about to hit the best part of it, too. This is crazy, and I love looking, and I know we're about to talk about it here, but I even go past Joe Lenardi. I look at like 10 different
you got to look at the entire board here to see what you're getting. But looking at the Joe Lenardi bracketology, just the one I usually kind of follow here, the Big 12 you're starting to fall off from 7 teams to 6 teams in. Oklahoma now officially moving into the first 4 out. SMU, BYU, Oklahoma, and Dayton round out the first 4 out. The next 4 out, Florida, Kansas State, Oregon, and St. Bonaventure. Last 4 byes, Miami, North Carolina, Creighton, San Francisco. Last 4 in, Michigan, Indiana, Memphis, and San Diego State. So, I mean, should be a fun time looking at bracketology right now. Gonzaga, the number 1 overall seed. Arizona, also a 1 seed, as well as Kansas and Auburn. You look at the 2 seeds, Texas Tech paired up with Gonzaga, Baylor paired up with Arizona, Kentucky paired up with Kansas. Wouldn't that be fun? Get those 2 blue bloods together for another game. And then Purdue as well is a 2 seed in the Auburn side of things in the East.
Yeah, I think a lot of interesting spots here for Joe Lenardi and everything. And Baylor survives. They're still at the 2. Can they get up to the 1 by the end of the year? I think it's a possibility. Tech, can they get up to 1? Yeah, they'll have to beat each other out in the Big 12 playoffs. I think Providence is an interesting story. I mean, they were ranked, I think, they were ranked 8 going into last week when Nova beat them, and then they had the 1-point win over Butler. And it's crazy because, like, I know it's not how they do it, but like if you think about like 1 through 4 as a 1 seed, and then
you
5 through 8
would think of Providence
would be
as a 2 seed
but they
based on the AP.
They're a 4 spot there, so that's always kind of interesting to me how that works. And obviously, they take into account strength of schedule and all that, so it's always fun to see. But I mean, one big story here too for me is Joe Lenardi's got 7 Big East teams. This has been the best Big East basketball without question since from top to bottom since the original Big East kind of disbanded. So that's good to see to get that conference back on the map a little bit. And then there's just, like you said, this is the fun time of year. We'll get the conference playoffs here starting up here shortly. And no, it's exciting times for sure. And I don't know, Purdue-Auburn, 1-2 matchup there in that region. If that happens, that'd be an interesting situation there.
Yeah, don't forget in that region, Duke is a 3 seed. So a Purdue-Duke game potentially in the Elite 8 or Sweet 16 there would be fun. Ohio State and Providence, like we mentioned, both in the East as well. Vermont-Providence, that would be a fun 4-13 matchup. Vermont always a sneaky team, it feels like. Iona the same way against Ohio State in a 5-12. Look at some of the other matchups. The Midwest, Michigan State being a 6 seed going up against the Dons of San Francisco. If they won, they'd get a second-round matchup with Villanova, which would be an intriguing battle, to say the least.
Yeah, talk about 2 coaches. Yeah, imagine that headline. Time is OSJ, right?
Yeah, that would be a fun one. Houston and UConn, potentially a second-round matchup. UConn a 5, Houston a 4 out in the Midwest. Looking at the South, Texas and Davidson. Now, that would be a fun matchup to see. One of the best defenses in the country versus a Davidson team that continues to fly on or just fire on all cylinders. Would be a fun matchup. There's a 5-12. Tennessee, Chattanooga. And very often you don't see an in-state matchup in the first round, having to travel all the way to Pittsburgh for that game.
To go 2 Tennessee teams in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I'm sure they'd love that. Just play the game in Nashville. I'm sure they'd both appreciate that. But looking in the West real quick, I think one of my favorite little quadrants here, Alabama, North Texas is a 5-12. I think that could be a potential upset alert. And UCLA, South Dakota State. Not a lot of people talking about the Jackrabbits. They're one of 3 teams undefeated in conference play, along with Gonzaga and Murray State. But they're a team not a lot of people are talking about. They used to have Mike Dahm. Obviously, he's no longer there. But this is South Dakota State team. They've rebuilt. They're still dominating in the Summit League, and they're going to continue to do what they do best.
Yeah, without question. I think it's always interesting, and I know we talked about this in the past, where we rate Gonzaga and everything, and this would be an interesting test for them. I mean, listen, I will say this. Notre Dame, I think we're one of the most underrated teams this year. They weren't expected to really do much this year, and Mike Bray's got them playing well. And here's the thing, like they're fighting for an ACC regular season title, and that's been kind of resurfaced here lately as one of the few major teams that has never won a regular season title. So that would be in their current conference. So that would be a big storyline for them. The fact that they're even this high is shocking, just in terms of where they're at. So they're a team to look out for as a 9 seed. I mean, if that actually happens, I think that's and Joe Denard is usually pretty good. This is probably what would happen if it started today. But I think 9 would be a little bit undervalued, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it easily could be. This has been just a fun time. looking here, trying to see if I've got anything else pulled. I don't think really. That's pretty much every main thing. We can talk a little bit about the MLB disputes still going on. They had the big meeting yesterday that seemed to last on and on and on and on, and then at the end of the day, I never really heard an official end to it. It just kind of happened, and no one said anything.
Yeah, so from what I heard and read was it was progress in terms of how much meeting time they had. They went from 15 minutes to an hour and 15. But the problem is they didn't really make progress on ending the lockout.
Yeah.
And yes, okay, it's great to see they actually sat in a room for more than 15 minutes. Congratulations. I mean, that should have been happening since day one.
Exactly.
You're all grown men. You all should be getting in there and figuring out a way to get this done. And my buddy, a couple big baseball fans, we were in a group chat, and he sent me John Heyman's tweet today, and it summed it up pretty good. MLB and players meet again today at 1, and really details on that really haven't come out too much yet, but it's nice they're meeting again, but it's time to step things up and really ramp up talks and getting this deal done because, listen, I mean, me and you could come in here and hang out and talk about a show for so long, but it's not mean it's going to come out very well if we're just doing it, just to do it. And that's what it seems like that the MLB is doing right now. So they're just meeting to say they met. Like, it doesn't seem like there's real urgency to get this deal done. And obviously I'm probably wrong and hope I'm wrong, but it's time that fans start to see that because I read they got 5 days left to get a deal done before you have to officially move back opening day. And we all know how bad they handled the COVID season and all that detail and everything. We don't have to go into that again. But if you're going to have to move back opening day twice in the last 3 years just because you guys can't come together, and here's the thing. I'm on, at this point, I'm on both sides, but the MLB didn't have to go into a lockout this year. That's the other issue is they could have avoided it. They could have said, okay, we'll what's terminology? We'll renew what happened last year for one more season, which they could have did, and talk throughout the season to get things done while still playing. Obviously, that's not ideal, but you could have done that, and that's what you should have done. Listen, I'm a huge baseball fan. It'll always be my favorite sport, but I can admit you're in danger of losing a lot of fans. It's a sport that you have lost a lot of fans recently, so this is the last thing baseball needs. And if they can't get a deal done by next Monday and they got to move things back, and it's going to turn to a bigger mess than it has to be.
Yeah, then as we're getting here, Jesse Rogers of ESPN, he said today that the league once again asked for a mediator, and once again the union rejected the offer of it. So, interesting developments there. We were told that the first meeting of the day started around 1:20-ish, and then they had an intermission, and as we kind of see from yesterday's meeting, according to Olney, the talks were much improved. It was more about problem solving instead of just restatements of their stances. So I hope we're going somewhere, but obviously we do not have a whole lot of time.
And I'm just trying to read into it here, and obviously maybe that's a bad idea. But as you mentioned today, you said that and I didn't know that yet. So today they come back with we need a mediator again. So is that so what progress have we made since last Monday?
Obviously they're going to meet again tomorrow.
When they wanted a mediator, are they just, I don't know.
Okay, so
I really want to know what.
Here's what we have from Drellich today. The MLBPA's offer today, things included in it, instead of 80% of players with 2 to 3 years of service being eligible for arbitration, they moved it down to 75%. They dropped from 8 picks in the amateur draft lottery to 7. Some increases in minimum salary. There was no new proposal on the CBT, on the collective bargaining, or not collective bar. I don't actually remember what CBT stands for here, but I don't know. CBT could mean anything.
So that'd be the most important part, right?
Yeah,
so the most important thing that they need to get done in these meetings didn't even get addressed.
Yeah, but some people are speculating, they might be trying to keep that for last, but who really knows? It is an intriguing time, kind of a scary time for baseball. No one really knows what in the world is going on there. Of course, they're gonna meet again tomorrow. That's about all we do know. Some other MLB news, though. There is growing concern that Freddie Freeman's not going to be with the Braves next year.
Please.
Yeah, I know as a Phillies fan, I'm sure you're happy for that.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, obviously, a guy like Freddie Freeman, anybody in the world is going to take Freddie Freeman. But with the DH coming in, and that's already been announced that that's going to be for both sides, both leagues next year, the spot for first base is just open up for every team, technically.
It has.
I mean, because, obviously, I'm going to speak for the Phillies right now, but we have a first baseman who's really good in Reese Hoskins, but his fielding is one little downside where everybody knocks. So now you can move him to DH, sign Freddie Freeman, and get best of both worlds. There's a plethora of other teams that will be in that same situation. So Freddie Freeman, obviously his market's already been big, but it even got a little bigger, you could say, because it could turn into a little bit of a bidding war even more now, because it's not like, okay, well, we don't need to spend the extra $10 million because we already got this guy at first. Now it's like, okay, maybe we'll spend the extra $10 million and we can shift these guys around.
Yeah, I mean, it could easily happen. I mean, it has been a crazy time so far, but I know, Andrew, you've got to get going here in a few minutes. It's about time for the fun game to begin over at Percival Fieldhouse. It's not the only game at the Pit coming up this week. Thursday night, white out, wear white if you can. Big game against Southern Nazarene. I talked about it a little bit in the intro. Number 3 versus number 4 in the GAC on the guys' side. Big game on the girls' side as well. Should be a fun one there.
It's a great opportunity, and there'll be a lot of fun stuff going on Thursday as well. So it's going to be a game everyone should get out there and watch it, and hopefully get a big rowdy crowd out there and filling up the pit. But like you said, yeah, it's a whiteout, and it's fun because you already did a blackout this year, so it's gonna be fun, doing the other side of it as well, and kind of mixing through everything. And I'm excited for it. I think it's both teams are playing really well, obviously, and I saw the 15 wins is the most since 2002, and then the guys 19 wins right now is the most since 2017, I think it was. And so it's a fun time. Both teams are hitting strides very well here late in the year.
I mean, both teams are able to hit their stride, which is something you have to be able to do. We've talked about it's one of the main keys to win in March. You've got to win in February to get to March.
You're exactly right.
I mean, it's going to be a fun time, and hopefully Northwestern able to get the job done. I mean, if they're able to get up to a 2 seed on the men's side, that would be just incredible. The opportunity has presented itself with some of the games left, but that's all we can say for now is we hope it happens. We can speculate about it, but when we come in here next Monday, we'll know what's happened.
Yeah, hopefully we should have the bracket and everything for that too. So, I mean, and hey, playoffs are just down in Shawnee. Both teams already clinched a spot, so it's not that far away if fans and students want to get out there and support them out there.
Not that far of a drive at all, but we thank you for tuning in tonight. It has been fun as always, Andrew, but until next time, for Andrew Santangelo, I'm Cade Kennedy, and have a great night, everybody.